Welcome to Health Facts with Normanie Ricks. I am your host, Normanie Ricks. I like to start off each episode with a little known health fact. Did you know that 50% of marriages end in divorce? I don't know. I feel like most people did know that. What I want to discuss today is the children who get caught in the crosshairs and what happens after the fallout. I have the honor and pleasure of having Daniella Kadene on the show today. She is based in London, UK. She has been a social worker for 15 years and is also a psychotherapist. She is also the mom of 3 children. Her expertise is in the area of helping those who feel overwhelmed with the pressures of life, those who continuously repeat negative patterns, and those who are suffering from loss. Welcome to the show, Daniella.
Hello, thank you.
Thank you. I am assuming that you know that fact.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you counsel those who have gone through divorce?
I do. I counsel those that have gone through divorce, separation, experienced quite a lot of life traumas, unfortunately, but I do have a lot of parents, especially, that are navigating divorce and trying to figure out how to co-parent or parent in the best way possible for their children.
You brought up past traumas. Do you feel like past trauma usually leads to divorces in some cases?
I think there's a wide range of reasons why people divorce. I can say that a lot can be attributed to past traumas, things that they would have experienced during childhood that has manifested as they have become older. So that has played a massive part in a lot of cases. But I do think there are also other issues such as infidelity or just naturally growing apart that has played a part in why people do divorce.
So let's talk about the children that have to deal with the fallout. So when you are counseling families as a whole, do you counsel the children as well?
Yes. So, we can counsel the family altogether, but I think the children deserve their own safe space where they can process their feelings around what's happening. So it's often a very, very complex dynamic for children dealing with separation. A lot of issues can arise in terms of feeling conflicted, feeling like they have to choose between the parents, getting caught in the crosshairs between the parents and dealing with that conflict. So there's a lot of things that they go through that they need help to process and unpick and come to terms with.
Okay, you mentioned having to choose between the parents. That's really heavy. So I know different cultures are different. So, like in American culture, I feel like it's the thought process that the children usually go with the mom. Now, I don't particularly agree with that. So, what do you feel like usually happens with the children?
I think there used to be a misconception that the children would automatically go to the mother and that was the best place for them. But I think it's a lot more complex than that. It's really about the parents' capacity, whether or not they can provide adequate care or, safe care for the child. And also a lot of emphasis is placed on what the child wants also. What's the child's relationship with both parents? What is it like? Who's got the greater capacity to meet the child's needs? So there's a lot of factors that come into play. So it really is assessing all of those things, speaking to the child, hearing their views, their wishes, their feelings. What is it that they want for themselves? Bearing in mind their age and development, but also speaking to and assessing the parents and seeing what their family dynamics are, what they have the capacity to do, and also assessing whether or not there's a way to, I suppose, help the family to jointly care for the child. So it might be that the child spends an equal amount of time with both parents, or it may be that it's slightly more with one parent and slightly less with another. So it isn't straightforward, automatically the mother, automatically the father. It is really about a needs-led basis, I would say.
So, the law here in the United States is once a child turns 13, they can decide who they want to live with. Do you know what the laws are in other countries?
I can speak for the UK. I can say that once you are, I would say around 11, 12 years old, a greater weight is placed on what the child wants for themselves. I think once you're under 10 years old, it really is taking into consideration the child's needs, wishes and feelings, but also recognizing that, once they are a little bit older, that's when you can more, I guess, place more weight and more emphasis on what they're saying they want for themselves. Here, once the child is 16, they can decide, for themselves where they want to reside, and their decisions can't be made for them once they're 16 years old. But it gets a little bit more complicated once they get a little bit younger.
Okay. So, do you feel like if a child does choose one parent over the other, does that create bitterness when it comes to
Well,
co-parenting?
it can create bitterness. I mean, it depends on the parent and what they are able to hold. I think some children, they do experience that. And I've experienced that in a lot of cases where a child might say, I feel more comfortable with one parent, or actually I want to live with, let's say, my mum, but I want to see my dad on the weekends. And then the dad has a lot of resentment because they're feeling as though you should have picked me. And even though it doesn't come out in an overt way, so the dad might not punish in a way that is visible to other people, is there's often underhanded ways where they can punish the child for making that choice and making that decision. I think a lot of times in separation, ego plays a part, and the parent can be a competition. Who's going to get this and who's going to get that? And ultimately, often, sadly, the child is placed in a position where they have to choose and that weight is placed on them. I do remember speaking to a child once and I spoke to them and I said to them, how are you finding the separation? And they said, I just didn't want to choose. I didn't want to have to choose between them. And I think for a child, that is very, very difficult because they're looking at a family unit that was once together and now they're having to decide, what parent am I choosing while still wanting to have a relationship with the other?
I've always been very intrigued with boundaries. When you say as far as ego comes into play. So I feel like I've seen situations where people used to live together, used to live in the same house. So they feel like they can just walk into the other person's residence with no knock, no ring the doorbell, just walk in with the key and maybe drop the kids off or pick them up. So how do you establish boundaries?
I think co-parenting after a breakup is very, very challenging, especially if emotions are still high, which in most cases they are. And if there's already a difficulty with communicating, it can also be really hard when there's different parenting styles. And it can also be very, very hard when, as you said, you used to live together and now you're having to navigate life in separate households. So that can be very difficult. I think having boundaries helps you both know how to navigate this new role, what the expectations are, and what the rules are in this new dynamic. The most common difficulty I think that co-parents have is communicating with one another. How do we communicate? Some people can manage their dislike for the other person and keep the communication respectful and keep it child focused and focused on what the child's needs are. But others, they find that very, very difficult and they have to use other methods to communicate. Maybe a third party, maybe a parenting app or something like that. So I think it's really important when establishing boundaries with your co-parent to be realistic about where you're both at. Is it safe at the moment? Is it healthy at the moment? Is it working at the moment to communicate directly with your co-parent? It's important to be aware of both of your capacities and what you can manage and release the guilt and the shame about it not being the way that you envisaged. So I think first and foremost, it's really about identifying within yourself, okay, what can we manage right now? What do we need to fine tune? And what rules do we need to put in place to enable us to be able to do this journey together? I remember speaking to a parent and they said, when we break up, well, we are breaking up right now, but what we're going to do is we're still going to have joint birthday parties together and we're still going to have joint celebrations and we're going to put money together to purchase school uniforms and school trips and things that a child needs. And they had this grand idea and they had the best intentions of how they thought the co-parenting relationship would be. And it just didn't work out in that way. And that was devastating for them because they really hoped that we're not together anymore, but let's try and do this in a way that we're still amicable. And sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it's not possible. So it really is about ensuring that you have an idea first and foremost of what it is that you need for yourself, what is safe for you and for your child, and being able to implement that. And that's what I encourage people to do. I encourage people to identify what works for you and your child and to implement that.
So, what if you come up with this great plan and then the other parent gets into a relationship with somebody else or gets married to somebody else, and then jealousy comes into play or bitterness comes into play? Like, how do you shift the focus, I guess? How do you shift?
Is that for the other parent who's dealing with the other parent in a relationship.
It could it could be both parents found a different partner, one parent found a different partner. I just feel like children get caught in the middle of that a lot. The two parents may be getting along until somebody else comes into the picture. And then I just find that after that is just, oh, well, I'm always at my mom's house now, or I'm always at my dad's house now, or my mom is always angry, or my dad is always angry now. So, like, how do you coach people through transitions and shifts?
I think it's about recognizing that there are many transitions and shifts and changes that will happen in any journey that you take. For children, it is hard for them to come to terms with the new dynamics. It was mum and dad together, or my parents were together, and now you're dealing with possibly your parents being separated from each other and single. And then you've got to deal with the other person that might come in on both sides or on one of the sides. So it is very, very difficult. And I think one of the things that we don't recognize enough is that children are resilient. They are able to cope with changes. They are able to adapt and adjust. It really is about how the changes are managed. It's about how the parents or the people around them deal with what's happening. Because for children, if everything is consistent and stable and secure, they can deal with that. They can adapt with that. But it really is about making sure that, okay, another person is in this dynamic. Okay, how much do you understand of my co-parenting responsibilities? How much do you accept that? Where can you fit in? How much can you also keep my child at the forefront of the decision making? Are you able to take your ego out of it and to recognize that if I am in this situation, if I'm there, if I'm attending, if I'm spending time with my child, it's my child's needs. And it's about navigating that and helping the person that you're in a relationship with to understand what your child needs. And that's what the focus is. And if that can maintain and stay as the focus, then it's easier for the child to be able to manage that situation.
As a woman, listening to other women's stories, I always find that there's a certain mindset. So the mindset that I typically don't agree with or line up with is, just because me and this person got a divorce, now I'm a single parent. I don't feel like that's a good mindset or mentality to have, or even speak out of your mouth when the other parent is still alive, or the other parent still can have some responsibility to the child. As far as just, I guess, saying that you're a single parent instead of just kind of trying to involve the other parent, how do you coach people through that?
I think it's about recognizing where the other parent is at. When you separate and you're both parenting the child separately, I think it's about recognizing, okay, let's say, for example, if you are separated and you are the mother and you've got the children in your care, if you've got a father that's involved, that's still wanting to be involved, still having contact, still providing financially, still investing in the child emotionally, I think it's about recognizing the part that that father plays in the raising of that child. I do understand that for many parents, whilst the father is still alive and he's there, he's not active in that child's life and he's not contributing financially. So you can very much feel that you are a single parent and that you are raising that child by yourself.
I just feel like a lot, I guess, the words that we say affect our children. So how have, I guess, children expressed themselves to you as a child of a single parent household?
That's not language that a child would typically say in terms of, I've been raised by a single mum or a single dad. I think that's more language that I would more hear parents say and adults say. And the child is typically, they're used to what their dynamic is. And it might be that I was raised by my dad or I was raised by my mum, but then also recognizing the other people around them that's also played a part in the raising of them. Yeah, I haven't heard myself that language being used in terms of a child making sense of how they were raised. As children, they don't typically say single parent and single father. It really is just recognizing what their dynamics are.
Yeah, that's really, really positive to hear you say that. I think that's great to point out that children don't automatically think these things. A lot of times these things are being heard in the household, and the child might hear somebody say that, but they don't automatically feel less than.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Could you share some about the book that you've written? What's the name of the book that you wrote?
So the book I've written is called I Know Why She Smiles.
Okay. Can you tell us some about it?
Yeah, it's about a young woman's, it's inspired by my journey, I would say. So it's a part guide, part memoir. And it's about a young woman's journey to find herself and to become and to overcome in a world that tells her that she cannot. So it's really a young woman navigating, I would say, adolescence and finding out that she is pregnant at a young age and dealing with the world's responses to that, telling her life is over, she's not going to make it, painting a very, very dim picture of what her life is going to be. And I suppose her fight to break those stereotypes and to become in a world that is very negative about what her outcome will be.
That's wonderful. I think that if people can have more resources in books where it's like, I guess, a mindset shift, because I feel like a lot of times is you can overcome a lot. And a lot of times you just need somebody to coach you, you need somebody
Yeah.
to talk to you, you need counseling, you may
Yeah.
need resources, some books. So do you have any suggestions for books that you usually recommend to your clients?
What I would say is, I think one of the things that I found difficult myself, but I noticed this is a common thread amongst a lot of people that I speak to, in that for some reason, when we're going through something difficult, we know that other people have gone through it too, or may have gone through it too, but we feel alone. We feel like we're the only ones going through it, and it feels very isolating and very difficult because of that. And I think for me, that's very unfortunate because if you put yourself in a room full of people, the chances are you're probably going to find someone that's had a very similar experience to yourself. If we would just share what's going on or what's happening or how we feel. So I think there's so much value in community. And I think one of the things that I really see the value in is in social media. And I love that people are sharing their stories more and talking about their journeys and what's happening for them, because so many people can relate. So many people can learn from it. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote that book, because I recognized when I was going through it, I felt like I was the only person. Despite knowing that other people were going through it, I felt like I was the only person going through it. So I needed to put something out there to let other people know, look, I've gone through this. I know you're going through it. And this is how we came through it and also how you can come through it. So that's something that I would definitely first and foremost say, that there is so much value in community and the people around you, and just sitting down sometimes and speaking to people, and if they would allow it, asking them their whys and their journeys and just how they got to where they are right now and what they've gone through, because you can learn so much through conversation. But I would also say, I mean, you can see behind me, I've got lots and lots of books behind me. I'm a big reader. I wouldn't recommend any one book. I think that dependent on what you're going through, is I would recommend different things. One of the books I love reading, I'm reading at the moment, is Drama Free, and I'll just grab it so you can see it. Drama Free is one of my favorite books at the moment by Nedra Glover. And it's a guide to managing unhealthy family relationships. This is a really good one that helps a lot of people. But there's a whole realm of resources out there for anyone. And I just love the fact that you can go on Amazon and just type in what you're dealing with, and a lot of things will come up. So that's what I would I would encourage people to do.
Yes. I have always admired the younger generation for being able to express themselves and talk about their feelings and what they're going through. I feel like the old school thought is everything is a secret and everything gets swept
Yeah.
under the rug, and then people just suffer in silence. So I think that there's definitely a new shift towards people seeking out mental health, talking to other people in the community. And definitely, like you said, social media has been great for people being able to share their stories. But I also feel like there's more talk about suicide or teen suicide, which is strange considering I feel like they have more of an outlet than people used to have. So, do you find like that is a trend, or is that not a trend?
Well, I would say that I think you're right, in as much as there is more of an outlet now and people are speaking more about the things that they're going through. But I think on the other side, people are more accessible than they were before. You've got so much more of an insight into people's lives and what they're deciding to show. And I think that what comes with that is a lot of, you're seeing the highlights, you're seeing the good bits, you're seeing the best bits of people's stories. And that can feel quite isolating for young people, because they're looking on TikTok or Instagram and they're seeing all these amazing things that's happening for other people their ages and what they're getting up to and what they're doing and opportunities they have and the likes and the follows and all these things. And then it then makes them feel, well, what about me? So I feel that there's two sides to it, unfortunately. So I think that that is possibly playing a large part in it. When I speak to young people, they very much often feel that they're not good enough or they don't have it as good as someone else, or yeah, someone else has it better. Their family is better, or they've got this support around them, or maybe they're more attractive or they get more attention, or someone isn't dealing with someone doesn't have the same trauma as me. They're not going through the same things because it's not seen, it's not being shown, it's not being highlighted enough or as much, I would say.
Yes. Thank you for your expertise on that topic. That made me remember when I was on a mission trip once in Central America, and we were just kind of having a roundtable discussion. And one of the pastors said the quote, "Comparison is the thief of joy."
Yeah.
And I had never heard that up until that point. And I just felt like that shifted my life so much.
Yeah.
But it is so true. Comparison is the thief of joy. So it really makes sense what you just said about teenagers and social media.
Yeah. I do remember doing an exercise with a group of young people, and we sat in a circle and I gave them a pen and paper and I asked them to compare themselves to someone in the room and write down what they were, what the comparison was. And it was very interesting because you could very much see that the person that you are comparing yourself to is comparing themselves to someone else and themselves to someone else. And you can just see that everyone is doing the same thing. And if only that wasn't something that we were doing and we were able to just accept ourselves as we are. But I think, yeah, I do think that people don't realize enough that the very same thing, that this very same person that you're admiring and you're thinking is amazing and everything is great and nothing's wrong and they're a light and you want to be just like them, that very same person is also looking at someone else in the same way. And that person's looking at someone else in the same way.
Yes, that's a very good example. On that note, Daniella, what is it that you feel like that you want to be known for? Like, what is your legacy?
I actually thought about this a lot recently. I was thinking about that. I think for me, it's that word overcoming. I strongly believe that no one is exempt from pain. No one's exempt from heartache. No one's exempt from hurt. Everyone's going to experience it at some point in their lives. I've experienced it in different ways. And I think that what I want to be known for is overcoming. So irrespective of what happened, I've overcome it. The reason that I'm here today is because I overcame what happened yesterday. And I think I want to be that living and breathing example, but I also want to show other people that that's that thing that you thought was going to take you out yesterday. You survived it because you're here today and you are able to do that. So I think for me, that's what I want to pass on. And that's what drives what I do and what I speak about and what I write about and what I teach. It is about overcoming, and that we do have the capacity to overcome and we have done it before, so we can do it again.
If someone wanted to reach out to you or get your services, how do they find you?
They can find me on TikTok, Daniella Kadene. You can also find me on Instagram at Daniella Kadene. And you can also reach out on my website, which is daniellakadene.com.
And one more time, can you tell us the title of your book? And it is sold on Amazon, correct?
Yes, you can find it on Amazon and it's called I Know Why She Smiles.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Miss Daniella. You have been a wealth of knowledge, and I hope that this reaches people globally and it can help them be an overcomer.
Thank you very much for having me.